Hey guys, it's Alyssa here, and today I shall be doing my January wrap-up, my December and January book haul, and my TBR jar pick for February. So first, let's mention how my pick for January went. I picked Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier, and I tried giving it a shot, and I could not get into it in the slightest. I just don't think I'm in a place to read it right now. I just not in the mood for it. So I am going to unhaul it. Don't really have a system as for what happens if I DNF it or I end up not liking it or whatever, but I am going to unhaul it because I'm not going to keep holding on to classics that I know I can just rebuy in the future, probably in an edition that I like better. Because of the Rebecca edition that I had a mass market paperback, so that's not something that if I even ended up loving it that I would want to own that edition. Not saying I won't eventually read it sometime in my lifetime, but I'm not going to be reading it anytime soon. So we're going to do the book haul first. There's only 3 books, but I wanted to do it now because I didn't want it to turn into a super big thing later on. The first 2 books I bought together because I went to the library and they were there and they were $1, so I figured why not. So the first one that I bought is The Perilous Undertaking by Deanna Raybourn. This is the second book in a series, and I don't own the first book, but I do eventually when I get to these, and I love the covers, and it was cheap, so I figured, why not buy it? I just figured it couldn't hurt. It was $1, so I don't ever do this, but it's an exception because I do plan on buying the first book and reading this series, and it was cheap enough where even if I don't end up liking the first book and want to continue on, it's not a complete waste of my money. And the next book is The Dry by Jane Harper. I did not have this on my radar, but then Lala over at Books and Lala read this for, I don't know what readathon this was for. I don't know if it was for a readathon or if it was just like a reading vlog, but I remember she read it and I remember she enjoyed it. It's a mystery thriller, and I figured I would give it a shot, and I don't know, I read a lot of mystery thrillers now. The last book that I shall be hauling is Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil by John Brent. I hope that's how you say that. But I did not have this book on my radar because I think the cover is very ugly, and that's literally why I never picked it up. You will see this book in just about every bookstore, thrift store that you go into. Been seeing this for forever, but I never looked into it because it's just so ugly. But then I heard Olive over on her channel, A Book Olive, talking about this book. She did an in-depth review / movie review of this, and it made me really intrigued. And I found it at a local antique thrift store thing, and it was like $1, so got it. So now onto the books that I read in January. I did not read many books because I was in the process of moving and unpacking, and then just I think under 2 weeks after I moved, I went on vacation for 10 days. So January was what you could say a busy month. I'm surprised I read anything at all, but we started this year off quite busy, but I am doing absolutely nothing in February. When I say nothing, I mean nothing. People will be lucky if I leave my house to do anything. I'm tired. The first book that I read this year was actually a DNF. So we've really started off this year good. That is You Are Here by Dawn Lanuza. I got this through NetGalley, and I DNF'd it, I think around 100 pages or so. I had read Dawn's first collection and did not like it. But sometimes that can happen with poetry, especially modern poetry. So I decided to give her second collection a shot, and I was disappointed like halfway through, and I just had no desire to finish it, which I don't think I've ever DNF'd a poetry collection before. Normally I can power through because they take such little time, but this just really lost my interest. It started off so strong, and I thought I was going to enjoy it a lot more than I liked the previous collection, but it ended up being a real big flop. I really lost interest, which is a big thing for me, and I just frankly don't like her writing, I think. A lot of people don't like modern poetry because of how it's formatted, and it's a very controversial topic that I will not be talking about, but I personally enjoy it. And sometimes though, even for modern poetry, you will find that people putting words together just ends up being not pretty at all. And this is what happened with this book. I just found that there was nothing pretty about how it was put together. It wasn't put together in an interesting way. It didn't make me think about anything. It didn't make me feel anything. And something about modern poetry always like ends up making me feel something a lot of the time. That's why I like it. But this one just made me feel nothing, so that's why I DNF'd it. The next book that I read was Faith Volume 2. This is the technically, okay, this series kind of got confusing. I thought I had already read the first and second volume, but come to find out there's like 4 issues that are like the origin, like you find out like I guess the behind the scenes of Faith as like a character in her origin story, and then the first, like it restarts. I don't know, kind of confusing. I technically read the second volume, but for me it's like the third volume that I've read. Kind of confusing. Don't know why they did that. There was nothing like extraordinary about this collection. I ended up giving it a 4 out of 5 stars. I did try starting volume 3 and was very disappointed and actually ended up DNFing it, and I probably won't continue, but honestly it's not that plot intensive of a comic series where you need to catch up. I feel perfectly satisfied DNFing it. Like I don't feel like I'm missing anything. It's not that streamlined of a story. Like it just kind of ends with each volume. A little disappointed by that, but I still enjoyed it and would still recommend the first couple volumes. The next book that I read was actually the one and only book that I read this month off of my physical TBR, and that is The Perfect Stranger by Megan Miranda, and I absolutely loved this book. I ended up giving it a 4 out of 5 stars. I bought this from a thrift store back months ago when I was starting to collect more thrillers, and I just knew I wanted to read a thriller, and I picked this up and I really liked it. Honestly, it was really enjoyable. It felt very different formula-wise from any other thriller that I had read, which I enjoyed, because I feel like a lot of times with the thrillers that I've read, they follow a very particular formula, and this one felt a lot different. It's not a full 5 for me because it did take a lot of build-up. Like throughout the first half of the book, it just feels kind of uninteresting, but I still like just kept reading it to see like what would happen in the end, and I was genuinely shocked by the ending, and I really ended up enjoying the ending. I'm very excited to read more from Megan Miranda in the future because this was really good. And the next book that I finished in January was Every Word You Cannot Say by Ian Thomas. This was another book that I got from NetGalley. I really enjoyed this. I ended up giving it a 4 out of 5 stars. I don't have really any complaints other than the writing just seemed a little too simplistic sometimes. Same with Dawn, but this one had better messages, I felt like. Sometimes the writing just didn't pack a punch for me. It just didn't do anything for me. But overall, the flow of it was so good. It flowed so well. The messages were really great, and I feel like not seen as much in super popular modern poetry, which is like, it was focused a lot on like getting to know yourself and loving yourself, and I just really loved that message. It was very visually cool to look at. There were cool drawings, and the way it was formatted was neat. I felt very iffy about Ian Thomas's work in the past, but this was a really good one for me, and I really liked the messages in it. The last book that I read in January was actually one of my most anticipated books of the year. It was a little disappointing, sadly, and that is The Mermaid's Voice Returns in this one by Amanda Lovelace. I got this through NetGalley again, because I do that a lot. I was disappointed with this collection. I had previously really enjoyed Amanda's work. I particularly enjoyed the second book that she had come out. Was a little iffy on the first one, but this one just seemed to lack all of the punch that her previous collections had. There was no poems in it that spoke to me. There was nothing that I related to. It does deal with some very intense, heavy themes. It talks a lot I want to say about sexual assault or domestic assault or abuse of some sort along those lines. So it did deal with those heavy topics. And it's so hard to review poetry because it's such a personal thing. It's so hard because it's just very hard, basically. I didn't relate to it. You might though, so I'm not saying to not give it a shot. So those were all of the things that I hauled and read in January. It was a decent month. I'm hoping February is much better. I hope I get more read. But enough of that, and let's get on to my February TBR jar pick. In case you had missed my previous videos talking about this, I started a TBR jar for all of my classic books because I have quite a few of them. And I need to read them. Okay, fun fact, I didn't talk about this. I actually had to redo this jar because I had done it off of the memory of what I thought I had owned, and I had forgotten quite a few that I had. So I had to completely redo this jar, which was, you know, not that bad. Obviously, there's not that much. Oh my god, my dog is ridiculous and paranoid. So let's just go ahead and pick one. Let's hope I don't get something really fat. Let's hope. One can hope, right? Okay. I think this is toward you guys. What is that? What does that say? I can't even see. That's why, because it's upside down. The Taming of the Shrew. Oh my god. Wait, let me go get it. So this is the copy of The Taming of the Shrew that I own. I own a bunch of these No Fear Shakespeare's, and I got them years ago from a former friend, and I have not read like any of them yet, and I just really want to get into Shakespeare more this year. So a little fun fact about me is that I actually love Taming of the Shrew. It's one of my favorite Shakespeare plays. I know the story really well. I watched the old movie of this, and then I actually, when I was in my teens, I actually played her in this Shakespeare drama camp that I did, where we each picked like a scene out of a Shakespeare play that we could do. And yeah, I really love this story. I've seen it multiple times. I just have not physically read it yet. So I can officially stop calling myself a fake Taming of the Shrew fan. So that was it. That is all I came to discuss today. Let me know if you read any of these books, enjoyed them, didn't enjoy them. I'd love to know down below. That's all I got for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope I shall see you in the next one. Bye.